Hello. So, it made it. It survived. This is the same CD shelf and the same CDs that were in my former house, and this is my new house, and we moved it. It's been a month now. Today is the 12th of January, and we moved on the 12th of December, so it's exactly a month. And this is set up in our living room space because there's not enough room in the bedroom. Well, there would be, but it would be a bit cramped. But if you watch the previous videos I did before I moved, I was worried about transporting this shelving unit because I thought it wasn't the strongest, but actually was fine. It survived. It transported no problems whatsoever, as did the CDs. I didn't unpack the CDs immediately. It was probably about a couple of weeks they sat in boxes, but while we were kind of getting other things sorted. But I did finally, and this is it. That's my guitar and amp and my son's ukulele. And this is 85% of the CDs, the ones that don't fit. You can see it's almost at capacity. I've left, as I went through, I kind of left some spaces on each kind of level. Some have already been filled, like that one, but there's kind of space for kind of one so that I can, as I get new things, I can fit them in. But it is more or less at capacity, and the CDs that aren't in here, such as the soundtracks, are in a box, 2 boxes in the storage cupboard behind me, which I don't need to show. And there's also some on the shelf, other CDs, compilations and whatnot, on the shelf in my bedroom next to the books, so that's kind of fine. But I do have to think about that going forward. I can't make massive purchases because there's just not the space to do so. I guess I could buy another kind of smaller, maybe kind of half the size of this, and kind of this. We do have space around the house for other areas. It's not really a house; it's an apartment unit that we bought. But yeah, there's not really much else to say about it. The kind of the setup is that's my player, my CD player. It's a JVC. I don't know the model. I don't know if I can show you on top, but that's not going to work. That center part, the plastic part with the stickers on it of the little astronaut boy and his dog, that slides across and the CD sits in the hand. Maybe I can do that. Oh, sorry, that covers the camera. This is all very professional, I know, but that's going to be turning on. Hello, it says disc, and then you open. It's very kind of quite slow to react sometimes, so you push open, right, and there we go. And then it's in there, Hall & Oates Greatest Hits CD2 is what I've been listening to recently. And then you push use, reading, It's not the fastest thing, and there we go. It's going to start on track 12, which I was listening to last night. Better turn that off because that might trigger some sort of copyright breach. So that's on top, kind of getting a wide shot. It's about as tall as I am. I'm about 6'2", and the CD thing is pretty much exactly as tall as I am. Maybe I'm a little bit taller. And that's on top of there, so it's a bit high up. That means my son and probably my wife can't really reach it, but they don't really use it that much. So, or my wife doesn't use it all. My son sometimes plays his CDs in it, but I can help him out. But there's not really anywhere else. Well, I guess there are a few other places I could put it, but I kind of want to keep it all together, I guess. Next to that, that's the remote. I guess that's something I could say. I can use a remote, so I guess I give that to my son. He could. That's it. So this is about 5 years old. I know it's coming. It's actually 6 years old because I bought it in February 2020. 2020 I bought this, and it's now coming up January, well it is January 2026, so this is 6 years old now. I see I have an Opeth patch there. A Lego, I think it's not a cherry blossom, plum blossom flower that my wife's friend gave to my son, but it's an 18 plus thing to make, you know, like they put age ratings on them, so the difficulty. It wasn't an 18, like me and my son did it together. I don't know if that's going to stay there forever, but there's not really anyone else to put it on. And there's a postcard from Japan of, what's the name of that? Giant Wave off Kanagawa, I think. The guy who did it, it starts with H, I'm not sure. And then we got the Metallica patch. That's what one of my Christmas presents was a keyring, a guitar keyring with a guitar pick. So I don't use it as a keyring though, I use it as a decoration. The pick says, I pick you. I've never actually used a metal pick before. And over here you got a Led Zeppelin patch. In here, I actually got this the other day, is an immortal patch. Wrath from Blashkish, I don't know how to pronounce that. Blashik, I think is how they pronounce it. From Bergen. And yes, from A through to Z is this, and like I said, soundtracks, compilations are elsewhere. And so it is early mid-January now, and I haven't really been doing videos, uploading videos, and I have a kind of a backlog of ones that I haven't uploaded for some reason. It's been very busy, as you can imagine. It's been Christmas and New Year. Moving house is the main thing. It's just, it takes a long time to get settled in, to get everything kind of unpacked and I guess psychologically settled in as well. I found that that can be actually harder. And this is the first home that we've ever owned, that we bought this. We got a mortgage, which is something I never thought I would do. Not meaning like, oh, it was my choice not to do it. It was like, I never thought I'd be in a position to be able to do it. But we did. But what I have got a few new CDs recently, not many, a handful over the last couple of months. Secondhand shops, I don't think I've got anything, but I have bought a few things off the trading groups on Facebook, and maybe the last thing I bought, no, not that, this one. So I think that's what I bought last year, and we'll talk about this maybe a little bit. And this is maybe my new filming area. The kitchen table. This table was bought from IKEA. IKEA just opened in New Zealand. I know that might sound, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Behind the times? Well, it's not really. New Zealand is a very small market, so a lot of big kind of international chains don't operate here because it's not really worth the setup costs to bring stores here and build it and all that kind of capital investment, and then also the supply chains are stretched because it's down the bottom of the world, and it's expensive to ship things here. And so a lot of these places that you have in your countries, kind of international chains that maybe you've had for decades, we don't have, or have only recently, like Costco, for example. Costco just opened here 2 years ago. We have one Costco store. I think they're building another one out South Auckland. And yes, IKEA opened literally about 1 month ago. And there's a lot of fanfare and talk about that. And oh, hang on. Hello? Okay, yeah, I'll just come down and get it. Cheers, thank you. don't know if I'm going to leave that that in, but Corinne just called. That's rung the doorbell. There's an intercom system. My son's school stationery was delivered because they start back at school. Actually, he hasn't started back at school for ages, but start of February, end of January is typically when New Zealand schools go back, and he's going back early February, so I ordered it so it's ready to go, and the courier has dropped it off. Anyway, sorry, I don't know if I'm going to leave that big 2-minute gap in, but if I do, I do. Anyway, what I was saying is IKEA opened up here, so we kind of worked out well, just as the week we were moving house and we needed some new furniture, because the lack of kind of competition down here with stores and budget options, shit can be really expensive, unnecessarily expensive, and so it's always good to have some competition. In saying that, it's not as though like everyone's clamoring for these brands to come and open here, and like, well, I'm certainly not, but there are some things like food is the big one. Like there's a duopoly here of supermarkets. There's 2 major companies, and so therefore there's not a lot of kind of pressure for them to lower their prices. Anyway, I'm going off topic here. We got a nice table at IKEA for a relatively low price that probably would have been shitter quality and more expensive if IKEA wasn't here. This is what I got secondhand off the Facebook CD trading group, which I talk about a lot. I'm a member of several New Zealand-based Facebook CD trading groups. When I say trading, it's buying and selling. No one's swapping CDs, I don't think. But it's the best source that I have for quality CDs at reasonable prices. In saying that, I've noticed that expectations of prices have been creeping up on those pages. In saying that again, I keep saying in saying that as I'm going to say something profound. I got this for $6. And if you don't know what this is, because I haven't actually seen what it is, this is the Opeth album Pale Communion. Now, Opeth albums are not the kind of thing you come across regularly, secondhand. Certainly not in like charity shops, like, you know, secondhand shops. In music shops, like Real Groovy Records over in the city, you might find a secondhand copy, but you're still going to be probably paying $24, something like that, $16 at a minimum. And it's just, they're not very common at all. You probably have to buy a new copy, which is up around $30. This is the last Opeth album that I didn't own a physical copy of. I own a physical copy of every album they've made. Studio album, don't have all the live albums, but studio album from Orchid through The Last Will and Testament. And this is the only hole I had remaining in my discography, Pale Communion. And there are several reasons why I didn't have it. The main reason is that this came out in 2014, and I think I've talked about this extensively. I've probably done about 4 different Opeth videos on this channel. I went to their concert a couple of months ago. I did a video when I got their most recent album last year or the year before now. I think I showed the other albums that I had. But anyway, I was a massive Opeth fan around. I discovered them about 2001. I was introduced to them through Blackwater Park. And Blackwater Park came out around 2000, 2001. I can't remember exactly. But I discovered it on the internet, on an internet guitar forum, where people used to discuss learning guitar, playing guitar, and then obviously that kind of expands into talking about music. And people used to rave on about this band Opeth. And so I downloaded the song Blackwater Park from the album Blackwater Park, and I was blown away by that song. It's like a 12-minute song, and it's like for me at that time where I wasn't really exposed to a lot of kind of extreme metal or prog metal or kind of songs that were that long, it was very different for me. And it was kind of, Opeth for me were kind of like the gateway into more extreme metal, death metal and black metal and more prog metal and like before that I listened to kind of just like, you know, main like Metallica and Pantera and Machine Head and Sepultura and, you know, a lot of new metal around that time as well, the late 90s, early 2000s. Meshuggah is kind of the one exception, is that my friend at school when we were teenagers, he was a huge Meshuggah fan, so I kind of listened to them through him. I was actually not even a very big Meshuggah fan back then. It was around the time when Future Breed Machine came out. And he used to thrash that album, play it over and over and again. I was so familiar with it, even though I didn't really like it. Now, Meshuggah is one of my favorite bands ever. But back then I was listening to more Oasis and Nirvana and Blur. Anyway, the point of me saying this is that I was a huge Opeth fan through the early 2000s, through the Damnation Deliverance period, when they released the DVD of Lamentations, the concert they did. I remember ordering that off Amazon, having to get it imported to New Zealand. And then when they released Ghost Reveries, I bought that on the first day it was released, and I loved that album. I still love that album. Then they toured here in 2006. I saw them, and that was kind of like the what do you call it? The apogee, or the apex of my fandom. Seeing them in concert, I met them after the concert. I met Mikael and Peter Lindgren and Martin Mendez, and it was kind of like it was all my fandom had built to this. And then shortly after I moved, I left New Zealand. I went and worked overseas for a few years, and kind of upon that, it kind of I don't know, maybe it was the age I was at. I kind of started listening to a lot of other music, a lot of electronic music, and my kind of metal phase kind of dissipated a bit around 2006, 2007. And so they released Watershed, I think 2008, and I bought that and I enjoyed it. It was a great album. Like it's not as though I like completely gone off them, but they were kind of like they weren't the be all and end all of everything as they had been maybe a few years earlier. And then Heritage came out in 2011, and obviously that was a huge right turn or whatever. Well, actually, that huge, but it was, you know, it was a completely, basically non-metal album. And I bought that, I think, within a couple of weeks of its release. But again, shortly after that, I went and lived overseas again. And it kind of seems like when I go to live overseas, you miss stuff. I don't mean miss as in you feel sad about it. I mean as you things pass you by because you're in a different cultural kind of milieu. And so the internet obviously mitigates that hugely nowadays. Because you don't have to go and buy it at a record shop or anything like that. It's released worldwide exactly the same time. There are probably other reasons. It's not just because I was overseas, but whatever. The release of this album, which I think was 2014, it really passed me by. And I think another reason why it passed me by is that I did listen to this when it was released. It wasn't as though I completely ignored it. I listened to it and it really didn't do anything for me. It wasn't terrible or anything or bad. Maybe I'd even say it's quite good, but it didn't excite me. And I was listening to, again, a lot of other stuff. By this stage, that would be almost 10, over 10 ago, 12 years ago. My musical taste had opened up to everything. I was listening to everything. Kind of to the last 10 years of like looking at my collection, I really covers almost every musical genre. And not just in a kind of like a touristic way. Like I have real deep love for certain artists and different things. Like you just saw the Hall & Oates album. Like I went through a huge Hall & Oates phase around 2015, 2016 for whatever reason. And it's like, it sounds preposterous to me, like 10 years younger, if you'd said, you're going to absolutely love Hall & Oates. You know, those guys who do that kind of R&B, soul type pop, 80s pop, very kind of cheesy and of the time. You're going to absolutely love them. I was like, I don't think that's going to happen, but it did. And then also a lot of other kind of metal, a lot of kind of more whatever. I don't even explain what I was listening to, but it wasn't obviously Opeth. And so I felt no desire to kind of buy this album. But then it was kind of strange. Skip forward a few years. When did Sorceress? Because this is the kind of period where I was completely just wasn't really following them at all. 2013, 2012, after Heritage, through to Encounter Venom. I really was not paying attention. I remember I ordered some CDs off Amazon, and I ordered Sorceress, the album after this, just because of the fact I had not listened to one song off that album. I think it was about like a year or two after it had been released. And I thought, well, I should at least give it a try. They used to be my favorite band in the world. And so I ordered it, and I actually quite like Sorceress. I like Sorceress more than I like this. Then Encounter Venom came out, which was the Swedish-English album. And I really like that album a lot. I enjoyed that album, and it kind of reignited my appreciation of Opeth. That was maybe doused by The Last Will and Testament, because that album was just over a year later, I still don't know how to feel about that album, which maybe is a good thing. Anyway, all this to come to the point is that I never bought this album. It was the only album I didn't buy. And I have their entire discography, and so I thought, well, it would be nice to fill that hole, but I was not going to go out and buy it new, which is basically the only way I'd be able to purchase it. And so, lo and behold, or whatever else you want to say to introduce, it came up. This guy listed a bunch of kind of vaguely metal CDs. It was more stuff like, it was a lot like Seven Dust. You know, Seven Dust is a band I've never really given any time to whatsoever. But anyway, tucked in there with the other ones was an Opeth album, Pale Communion. I just kind of couldn't believe it. And it was $6. You know, some of these kind of bands that have a little bit more, what do you call it, demand, guys are sometimes asking $10, $15, even $20 for some of those CDs. I don't know if this would have got there, but if this had been listed for $10, I wouldn't have, wouldn't have blinked an eye. That would have been completely expected. I probably even would have bought it for $10. The thing is that you have to pay shipping as well, which if you're just buying one CD, the shipping for this was $7. So I'm paying the price of the CD and $1 more to get it shipped to me. So total price was $13, which is still not bad. Again, it's still less than I would have paid if I had bought it somewhere else. I listened through to it. I've listened through to it many times in the past, but I listened to it kind of with intention, maybe. And kind of funny is that I had a similar feeling as I'd always had. It's like, it's not bad. There's some good parts and good songs on it, but it's for me, it's kind of the weakest album in the discography. Cusp of Eternity, I believe, was the single they released. You know, when I say single, it's not really a single in the traditional sense. It's like when they announce the album, we're going to be releasing an album in 2 months' time. They usually release a song with that announcement to kind of like, well, here's the first song that you want to, if you can want to listen, you can. It's like a teaser almost. So I'm familiar with that. I was also familiar with Eternal Rains Will Come, the opener. Goblin and River, I was also familiar with, quite different, especially River, quite a different type song, very kind of folky prog. Maybe I need to listen to it more. And again, I'm certainly not saying it's a bad album or anything approaching a bad album. It's just, for me, the peak period of Opeth is quite a long period. It's not that I'm going to pick out just one or two albums. I'm going to say from My Arms Your Hearse in 98, I believe it was 97, through to Ghost Reveries in 2005, 2006, whatever it was, 2005, 6. Those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 albums are the classic progression, evolution of Opeth. I put My Arms Your Hearse together with Still Life as these two kind of concept albums are both kind of perfect albums, brilliant. Then Blackwater Park kind of stands alone by itself. It's kind of like the culmination of the style they've been doing before that, and it's kind of like again a 10 out of 10 album. Blackwater Park for a long time, kind of I included it as kind of in my top 3 albums. Blackwater Park. Then you've got Deliverance and Damnation, which are very different, obviously, but were released kind of as a pair. I think originally it was meant to be a double album or something, but anyway, kind of Deliverance is very dark and evil and kind of compressed and claustrophobic sounding album. And then it's kind of it's twin, but not really twin. Damnation is obviously it's a purely kind of acoustic, mellow, clean vocals. The first time he'd done that, an entire album, clean vocals, no death screams or anything. But at the same time, also very dark. That album, the feeling I have about it, and maybe it's the time in my life as I was listening to it a lot, is very kind of dark and quite depressing, but beautiful, an amazing album. And then, kind of like Blackwater Park was a culmination of what had come before. Ghost Reveries was a second culmination. It was like kind of like a second peak. That it kind of put all that stuff together that they'd done all up until this time into kind of a ball of perfection. Watershed is great as well. I'm not saying Watershed's bad, but it feels there was something had changed, and maybe it's the lineup. That those albums I just mentioned, all of those were Mikael Åkerfeldt, Peter Lindgren, Martin Mendez, and Lopez did all those albums. And so maybe it's just in my mind I put them together as this kind of, and that's also when my fandom was first, most strong. So I'm not denying what came after it. And I'm certainly not one of those kind of people who says, oh, from Heritage on, they're a different band and their shit and blah, blah. I think Heritage is a brilliant album. I think Card of Venom is a great album. I think Sorceress is a pretty good album. I think Pale Communion is a good album. And in terms of Opeth, it's okay. Which sounds quite damning, doesn't it? The condition of it, it was great, no problem, but the jewel case central hub there, some of the teeth are pressed down, and so therefore it does not lock into place with that kind of satisfying kind of, it kind of sits there, supported but not in place. But the CD is in good condition, or great condition, or maybe what's the official term, maybe very good plus, or near mint condition, as is the CD booklet artwork. This is the artwork, done by Travis Smith as per usual. Can't even read what that says. Is it Swedish maybe? Or Latin? Triptych 11. Pale Communion. I can't read what it says underneath it. Has the lyrics written in a font that's not particularly easy to read. And then it has the credits. Pale Communion, something observation by Opeth. was created from nothing in something parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts, I think, maybe 7? No, 6. And written and produced by Michael Eckerfeldt. Co-production by Opeth and some guy, I can't read his name. Musicians, so by this stage we've got Fredrik Åkesson, Mikael Eckerfeldt, Martin Axelrod on drums, Martin on bass, Joachim Skalberg. On the keyboards, and we've got Stephen Wilson doing some backing vocals. I think Stephen Wilson also mixed this. Sleeve designed by Travis Smith, as I said. Concept by Michael. I don't even know what the concept. Don't even know this had a concept. Maybe it means the art concept. What's this over here? So that font really is hard to read. Something to results, something future results. So thanks to Stephen Wilson. Special mention to our families, children, girlfriends and friends. Special thanks to, or sincere thanks to, who's that? Well, everyone who listens to our music. Well, that's me. So he's thanking me personally. The Roadrunner, it's on put out on Roadrunner. So I don't know when they left Roadrunner. I think it would have been, yeah, the next album. It was Sorceress. They started up on Nuclear Blast on their own imprint. Was it Model Blood or something? Mushroom. It's their own personal imprint on Nuclear Blast, I believe. So this was their last Roadrunner album. And there's the band in pictorial form. Cards, playing cards. The Jack of Diamonds. Well, that's Joachim. The F, the Frederick of Clubs. The Joker, which is Michael. Which, if you've seen him live, he is quite a joker. He's quite a stand-up comedian in his stage banter. The Martin Spade and the Axe of Hearts. Produced by Mikael Eckerfeldt and mixed by Stephen Wilson. You know, Stephen Wilson is a busy man. You know, he obviously he does. We did Porcupine Tree. Didn't they reform and do something? But they obviously does a lot of solo work. Sorry, excuse me, I shouldn't you want. And then he seems to be remixing and remastering a lot of kind of classic albums. It seems like he's kind of like the go-to guy when they do like those Dolby Atmos or 5.1 remixes or mixes, or I don't know what the term is. He does it. Like I think he did one of Dark Side of the Moon, like some like really big names like Pink Floyd and other ones. Maybe no, he wouldn't have done Led Zeppelin. Surely that's Jimmy Page. Wouldn't let anyone else do that. But he's done some other big bets, 70s, 60s, 70s band, reissues as well. So he's obviously kind of got the, you obviously to do that kind of thing, you have to have a certain temperament, because you have to have a lot of focus and attention to detail, and a good attention span in general, because that's what I always thought with, and I think that's kind of something you see with production and mixing, is that when you're just listening to something over and over again, eventually your ears kind of get tired or kind of immune, or they can't hear the differences. And I think the ability to be able to listen to something a million times and pick out things and hear where something's not enough or too much, or this needs to be kind of dialed back, and sometimes you think, when sometimes an album's released and the production or the mixing is not good, and you think, well, how did that get past so many pairs of ears that no one picked that up? Like there was that, thing talked about a lot, there was that period, maybe it's still going now, but in the kind of mid to late 2000s, early 2010s, where people were mixing rock and metal albums very loud and hot. meaning everything was EQ'd at max. So there was no kind of dynamics between the different frequencies. Everything was just at full volume across the mix. And I think Death Magnet by Metallica was famous for this, but there was other ones as well. The one that I'm most familiar with, because I kind of picked it up myself before I even read about it, was the Queensryche album, the self-titled one they released around, the first one they released after Jeff Tate left or was fired. I think it was self-titled, the one with Redemption on it. And I found if you listen to that on headphones for any length of time, for kind of more than a couple of songs, it would give you like a headache. It would like induce pain because it was just, your ears were just assaulted. It was like a constant. Again, I'm not a producer, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm sure you understand. Like, imagine you get like the EQ, what do you call those things? Where you push the faders or whatever. And you push everything to max in the mixing. So all the frequencies of the guitar, the treble-y parts, and the bass, the lower, and the drums, all across the drums, the cymbal crashes and all that, and the vocals, all the pitches of the vocal are all competing with each other at the front of the mix, at a maximum, whatever, and there's no kind of dynamism between them that kind of makes spaces and leaves rooms for things to kind of show more. And so it just, your brain has to process that. It becomes like, it's like too much, and it hurts your ears. And that's how I was like listening to that Queensryche album, thinking, I quite enjoyed the songs, but it was like, fuck me, it's a hard listen. And then I read something somewhere, and people were saying exactly the same thing, and it was like quite sometimes where you think, is it just me? And then you hear other people saying the same thing, and you think, wow, I'm not as dumb as I thought I was. And so it turned out that yes, it had been mixed in that way for whatever. And you think, who allowed that to happen? Firstly, who thought that was a good idea? Because it's pretty well documented that that's not good. And then surely the band listened to it, the producer listened to it, maybe if they had someone different mixing it, he listened to it, the record label, maybe they listened to it. And it got past all those people to be released to the public. No one thought, hey, this doesn't sound so good. And sometimes I think and you see this, I see this at work sometimes, where there's a glaring problem. Sometimes there's a glaring problem, everyone knows there's a problem, and this, they can't fix it. That's a very common one. But sometimes there's a glaring problem, and you think, is anyone else seeing this? And you feel embarrassed or kind of scared to bring it up because you don't want to kind of point, you don't want to be the one that kind of has the light shone on them. There's like things that happen at work quite regularly, and I think, and it's not just to me, I'm sure everyone experiences it, and you think, this is so poorly organized, the system is so shit, that had I not done my own thing here to override it in some way, that it would have caused a complete failure of the system, and it would have caused massive problems across the network or whatever. And you see this and you think, well, are people aware of this? Are people above me aware of this? Are the people who made this plan in the system, are they aware of this? And you think, well, I'm going to send an email. Don't know to who, because I don't really have a direct boss. I've got like fucking 400 people above me doing 400 different things that don't really seem to. Anyway, in my mind, I'm like finishing my shift, and I think, I'm going to send an email, and I'm going to point it, and then you think, if I do that, they're going to come and talk to me, and they're going to want me to write a report, and then they're going to like check this thing and this thing that I did it properly beforehand, and I'm maybe going to check a few weeks ago. I can't be arsed doing this. And then you also think that it's true. Sometimes people don't, bosses and managers don't like people pointing out things. They get like targeted as like troublemakers. And so people kind of just, everyone in a line just kind of keeps quiet. The ball of shit rolls on. maybe that's what happens with these albums, where they get produced badly or mixed badly, and there's just a whole bunch of people going, well, maybe it sounds okay, maybe it's just me, or I'm not going to point that out, that's going to cost a lot of money to fix, I'm not going to point that out. So when you have someone like Steven Wilson, who is a perfectionist to kind of an extreme degree, and has kind of got almost like a neurodivergent kind of attention to hearing these things, he's the kind of guy you want in charge of them. In saying that, I don't know what his reputation, maybe some people say, how he just mixes, I don't know. Maybe they think he's massacred these things. Anyway, I've really rambled on because I haven't made a video for such a long time. We'll leave it there. I'm expecting a package in the post, but you know, a funny story. We live in this new place. It's like kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a bunch of people live in the same area, like a development, maybe you call it. And so the mailbox is not directly outside our house or outside our front door. It's they're kind of like an apartment. You know, you have like a communal, not communal. You have a whole bunch of mailboxes all together at the entry. It's not like that. It's not exactly like that because it's not really an apartment, but they've got different areas of mailboxes, and you need a key because it's public facing. You know, some random Joe could walk in off the street and open your mailbox and steal your mail, so that you have a key. The previous owners, when they moved, they gave us the keys and everything else, but they didn't give us the mailbox keys. And so I've been in contact with them saying, hey, we need the keys. And they're like, oh yeah, sorry, oh yeah, we'll get the keys to you. And they haven't. It's been a month now. We're starting to bloody keys from their mail. The first time when this got delivered, the postman had left this other half of the package kind of hanging out so I could kind of pull it out. But now, whatever's in there now, I can't. It's right down on the bottom of the box, so I need the key to open. So it's I'm expecting a package of 3 CDs, and I would guess that it was missed by the courier, and so he would have left one of those notes saying, I missed you, I'm going to go pick it up from somewhere, but I can't get the bloody piece of paper. And I talked to the bloody owner previous owner on Friday, and she said, oh yeah, I'll get my husband to contact you. Well, it was 3 days and he hasn't contacted me. It really annoys me with that kind of shit, because sometimes I think I'm useless with that kind of stuff. Like I put things off, but if it's something concerning another person, I do it. I get it done. As uncomfortable or as annoying or as pain in the ass it might be, I just do it because I want it done, ASAP. And sometimes I feel like kind of guilty about myself. I think, oh, you know, I'm not good at doing those kinds of things, or you know, But then I see how other people do things, and they're fucking a million times worse than me. Like with this, I can't imagine having someone's mailbox key and then in contact with them, but not fucking finding the 10 minutes to go and drop it off or make a meeting time. It makes me feel better about myself that I'm not as shit as that. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you for watching.